Hey, what's up everybody? So we're here. I just printed out a nut and a bolt for a personal project. Oh, this was the raft here. So just want to talk about my experience going through this and what I had to do to make it work with 3D printing. So I did this for a personal project. I'm going to take off this raft. And one of the first things you have to note is that it needs supports because it's a rotating thread, and so it definitely needs supports, and that's where most of your work is going to come in cleaning that thread. Just like this piece here, there's threads on the inside of this nut here, and it had printed supports on the inside. I don't know if you could see that. But basically I'm going in here with this tool I got from Harbor Freight. Super useful tool. It's tweezers that are kind of like pliers. Really great for 3D printing. It really gets into like really small little areas and helps you, take out all the supports that you need to take out. But for the most part, this came out really well. I only did about 2 rows, and I did this in Maya. I don't know if you could see the inside there, but I did 2 rows on the inside of threading. And I did this on the Monoprice. And for the most part, it rotates on the post really well on the bolt. It's just there's a lot of work that needs to be done to this. And so I'm going to go ahead and start that process now. And another tool here I like to use, I also got from Harbor Freight, are these cutters here. Picked these up, they're probably like $2 or $3. But basically I go in here and these are all the supports. And I just need to clean up the supports here. It takes a significant amount of time to clean this stuff up, but the end result is good. It actually functions and does what it needs to do. One thing that I did notice with 3D prints, especially like for things that you, like a tower type of thing that you print up like this, is that the top and bottom layer in the slicer has to be thicker. So mine's usually set to like either 0.4 or 0.8. I think it's set to 0.8 actually. And so I set the top and bottom thickness to 1.2 in Cura. And the reason for that is because since it's printing up and the layers are printing like this, it's easy to snap. Someone had made a YouTube video saying to print it like this, and since it prints like that, it's stronger, but I did that, but there was like sagging in my print and it didn't look good. That's not to say it wasn't strong, but I just figured, why don't I just double up on my top and bottom layers as well as the wall thickness, and that really worked. The first time I printed this out, this thing just snapped right away as I was cleaning it. So I did make it thicker, the top and bottom, and also the wall thickness. And those of you who don't know what the top and bottom layers are in your Cura settings, it's basically, this is the top layer, and this is the bottom layer, and this is your walls. So everything. So this would be considered a top layer, and I don't know if it would consider these threading here as top and bottom layer. It might, but anything on the sides are considered wall layers, and anything on the top and the bottom on a model is considered the top and bottom layers, and it makes it thicker. So I'm just going in here and continuing to clean this up. And it's just a little bit of a process, taking out the supports. There's supports all along the threading. And I haven't tried doing it without supports. I just figured it would need supports because it can't just print in thin air. And I've done a few of these already. I actually did this for a family member of mine. They needed it for a specific use case, and I did it, and it worked out pretty well for them. 3D printing could be really helpful for, other people as well, that they may have a part in their house that they can't find, or they have to ship it from China, because that's what happened with my family member. They needed this part here, and they had to ship it from China. When they purchased it from China, it never arrived. So he reached out to me. He's like, hey, can you do this? And that's a good way of also like giving gifts, or maybe you can make money by doing that, charge them for it. I didn't charge, I just did it for free. And now I'm going in here and cleaning up the thread on the inside. And with this part, you think you're done, and then the more you work on it, the more pieces come out. But another part that makes it easy to kind of detect where it needs to be cleaned is where those supports were in the beginning. So I can kind of go in here and just on one side of the thread here, just kind of pull away at it all along here. And I don't know if you could tell on the camera, but it's a real, you know, it's a bit of a mess. So doing this extra work really is necessary. It won't, you know, the nut won't spin on the bolt if this work isn't done. But it is possible. Doing nuts and bolts is possible. The threading on the nut though, on the inside, you have to make it rather small. I used Maya to make this. I didn't use Fusion 360 or any of those engineering type softwares. I actually just went into Maya, created a cylinder, and made a helix, and ended up just booleaning it together, and it seemed to work fine. Now I'm just going in here, taking out all these extra pieces. Hopefully you can see what I'm working on here. Right on the opposing side, it has the same thing going on. It's got some supports in there. Alright, so this is the result we have now in the meantime. Hopefully you can see that there. It's very jagged, and if I were to try to bring this through, it just wouldn't go through. So I have this 400 grit sanding paper here. I'm just going to bring it here and start sanding. Make it as smooth as possible. Definitely looking better already. By the way, I printed this on PLA, and that's why I think a lot of people don't print nuts and bolts on a printer, because you get results like these, where it takes a lot of work to just clean up the threading, because the threading needs supports. Now that this is fairly smoothed, I'm actually going to sand it a little bit more over here. I'm going to go in again and clear out the threading, but I'm going to go in a circular form, just like going all around, actually making sure the entire thing is cleaned up. And you can see little pieces coming off, and all that gets in the way of the thread working smoothly. Yep, that's a big one there. Now I'm going to go in with this piece and start cutting off some more pieces that are just too thick to sand. And so you see all the work that's going into making just one nut and bolt, and that's why I think some people avoid doing it on a 3D printer. I'm going to go ahead and sand this again. Now that this is sanded pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and wash this down. I'll be right back. Alright, I gave this thing a nice wash. I'm going to bring it up close to you guys. And the threads on the inside are still pretty dirty, so I'm going to go ahead and continue cleaning it. And it does take a significant amount of time to just kind of make sure all the threads inside are clean and can freely rotate the nut on the bolt. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and give this bolt a try. There you have it. It's actually rotating nicer than before. That's nice. And there you have it. You got a nut and a bolt. And I could easily make this square part a circle and turn it into an actual bolt instead of this useful piece. But the concept is there. You got the nut and the bolt, you got the threading. And what I did in the software that I used, which was Maya, was I made this piece first, and like I said before, I made it with a helix, wrapped around a cylinder. Then I boolean the helix onto that cylinder, and then I went into these parts here, into the geometry, and I took that part out. I pretty much made it half the distance here of tolerance, and I made the threading on the inside of this very tiny, because I made it where there was still like a gap and good tolerance between the two, but it wasn't spinning as freely. So I made it very small, and I only did about one rotation of threading. I don't know if all this makes sense. I could probably jump in Maya and show you guys, but I only went around once. So there's just one loop within this, and then I just booleaned it into there as well. Hey guys, so we're here in Maya, and this is the post that I had built out in Maya. And so the threading I was talking about was created with a helix. And here's that helix. And I just adjusted the settings so that it looks like this. And to create the thread on the inside, what I did is I grabbed this geometry here, and you can see it's fairly thick, and I pretty much made it so it's half that thickness, and here's the result. And so after making this here, and you can see how thick it is compared to, like, you can see the tolerance right there. And so basically I got this nut and I booleaned it in there. That's only pretty much one circle. It doesn't go several circles down. It's just very, very simple. Just one little loop around. And that seemed to work. Hey guys, we're in Cura now. And I just wanted to show you that wall thickness and top and bottom thickness, so you can find them over here. Usually they're set to 0.8, and the nozzle on my Monoprice prints at a 0.4 millimeter. So I know that it's creating two layers for the wall thickness and the top and bottom thickness. So I know that I wanted to add one more layer to that. So what's 0.4 plus 0.8? It's 1.2. Then I also want to do the same for the top and bottom thickness, 1.2. And what that does again is that it creates thicker tops and thicker bottoms. And then for the wall thickness, it's everything on the side. So all this, all that, all here, all that is for wall thickness. All right, guys, and that's it for Cura. And looks like it's working pretty good. Alright guys, there you have it. And that's the nut and bolt I modeled in Maya, sliced in Cura, and printed it out on the Monoprice Mini Delta V2. And it turned out pretty good. That's actually rotating really nicely. This is probably the best iteration I've done yet of this thing. And I've done about 5 of these already. Yeah, there you go. Alright guys, until next time, peace, love, and joy.